going on, guys? So we're back in my house. So today is 2 days after the oil change I did with Stitch, and today I'll be going over the different intervals for different maintenance parts on your VR30. So this part of the video, I'll be discussing two different power ranges in the VR30 platform, the 400 to the 500 wheel horsepower mark, and then the 600 to 800 wheel horsepower mark. Based on how much power you're pushing, it fluctuates because of how much more your car is pushing power wise and putting more stress on those maintenance parts. So I was nice enough to draw up all these things on the dry erase board for you guys. So as you can see here, I'm going to be going into details what brands I use for oil, along with where I actually purchased them from, and I'll be putting the links down below for that stuff. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the notorious serpentine belt problems that is very well known in the VR30 platform. So for serpentine belt, I go with Gates belt. That's the brand I use, and I'm going to show you the site right now. So here is the site I use. It ranges anywhere from $27 to $44 or $45, and it's called Car ID, and there you go, Gates Micro V belt. This belt is definitely more durable than the OEM belts, serpentine belts that the VR30s come with. Highly recommend this as an upgrade for your VR30. Alright, also a little side note with the belts. If your pulley is misaligned, even if you have a brand new belt, it will most likely snap before you even hit these intervals. And if the pulleys are aligned properly, it should last way longer than the intervals I have here. But because most of the time, either your AC compressor pulley is misaligned or your tensioner pulley is misaligned, I recommend these intervals for people that pretty much believe that their pulleys are misaligned and you have problems with belt snapping. This is all based on my personal experience, and this has helped me from having a lot of my belts snap on me. Hey, we fixed it. My hand's all fucked up, but we did it. Now for brake pads. I go with I'm gonna actually try these out for the first time, but I've been using EBC brake pads for quite a while. But I'm gonna be trying the EBC Blue Stuff brake pads sport version. So supposedly these have a lot more grip, a lot more durability. As for the intervals on the changes, I really can't say. Based on your driving, how aggressive you drive, that's gonna really determine short or long your intervals will be between brake changes. That you're just gonna have to eyeball as you go. Now we're gonna be going on to the rotors. So I get the two-piece Akebono rotors, sprinkle slotted, and here they are right now. These are actually the front rotors. I still need to purchase the rears. I got these off of somebody. They were selling them brand new, never taken out of the box. I got them for a really good price. So yeah, now all I need to get is the rear rotors because my rotors are shot. They're going on, I think, 36,000 miles on them. So yeah, it's about time I got new rotors. Okay, now on to my motor oil. The motor oil I use, and I hands down cannot express how good of an oil this is. I only recommend this oil. It is AMS oil right here. So I get AMS oil, I get of course synthetic, and I use 0W40. So when I was pushing 400 to 500 wheel horsepower mark, I actually was using 5W30 weight. I was told by other people pushing over 600 wheel horsepower in the 700 wheel horsepower mark that I should definitely upgrade to 0W40 weight. It has a better range for temperatures. It can perform well in low and high temperatures. And I live in New York, so it gets pretty cold here. And in the summers, it gets pretty hot. So that's really good for where I live. Highly recommend that when you're pushing or planning to push over 600 wheel. And the thing that's never changed for me was my the type of oil filter I get for my VR30. This has always been my go-to oil filter. I get this from Z1 Motorsports. It's actually the OEM GTR R35 oil filters. So yeah, like I said, you can get it from Z1 Motorsports. I'll be showing you that right now. So there is the oil filter right there. You click on it. Highly recommend this. It allows you to store a lot more oil in the filter than the OEM filter that your VR30 comes with, and it's only $6. Not bad at all. So now I told you what brands I use and where to get them from. That was on Z1 Motorsports, the site. So now I'm gonna be going to the actual specific mileage intervals for each maintenance part. So right off the bat, the Serpentine belt, when you're pushing between 400 to 500 wheel horsepower on the VR30 platform, get the Gates belt, and I recommend maintaining the belt every 8 to 10K miles. People say sometimes like 15K, but I really wouldn't take the risk, you know? It's a pain in the ass when that belt snaps. So yeah, 8 to 10K miles for the belt. Okay, as for the two-piece rotors, I've had the same rotors, the two-piece rotors, ever since I first bought the car, which was 4 years ago. And it finally hit around 35K mile range. So yeah, I'd recommend changing depending how an aggressive driver you are and how much you drive your car. It usually, if you're pushing 400 to 500 wheel, yeah, you should probably change it every 20 to 30K miles. That's a good range. Trust me, you'll know once the rotors start going. They start getting warped and the pads don't really grip as well on the rotors as when you first got them. So yeah, 20 to 30K miles for the rotors. Okay, now for engine oil. This is the most important because a lot of people don't realize how quickly Infinity motors consume oil.
What's in it?
You don't want to know. Cool.
Especially with the turbos that we come with, they usually leak a lot of oil, and a lot of extra oil gets evaporated from the system. So when you're pushing 400 to 500 wheel horsepower, I recommend servicing your oil every 5 to 6K miles. Don't take the risk, you know, oil changes aren't that expensive. And if you get a subscription, which is what I got for AMSOIL, it's fairly cheap. I usually buy in bulk. I buy 2 cases. And yeah, highly recommend changing it between 5 to 6K miles when you're pushing between this wheel horsepower mark. So I haven't even hit this range of power yet, but from doing a lot of research, this is the information that I've got. So for your Serpentine belt, 3 to 5K miles. Depending on how much you're driving, 3 to 5K miles. If you service it later, I'd say like 6K, 7K is pushing it. It's pushing it. So it's based on whether or not you want to take that risk, but I recommend servicing the Serpentine belt every 3 to 5K miles. As for two-piece rotors, it's going to drop down quite a bit. It's going to go from 30K miles max to 20K miles because, of course, your car is going to be pushing a lot more power and it's going to be wearing out your maintenance parts a lot faster. So two-piece rotors, depending on how aggressive in a driver you are, 15 to 20K miles. And finally, to engine oil, 2 to 4K miles for your engine oil. Because like I said, you really don't want to take the risk, you know, of blowing your motor. I've actually already blown one motor on my Q60 already, and it wasn't any like VR30's fault. It was completely my fault, and it was because I'd never checked my oil levels, and I literally had 0 oil in my car. And I didn't check the oils, and I just did a pull on the highway, and I felt something like, it was just like a weird noise, and like the car jerked a little bit. I spun my bearings. So yeah, I spun my bearings to that motor. Ended up waiting 4 months for a new one, got it under warranty, thank God. But I definitely learned my lesson, and I highly recommend, I cannot express it enough, check your oil levels and do regular maintenance on your oil, because Infinities are really well known for burning through oil very quickly. So that's pretty much everything that I could possibly think of for oil, rotors, brakes, the belt. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I could possibly think of for maintenance wise. There's obviously a lot more things that I could go more into detail, but it's just too much stuff to go into detail. If you guys have any other questions or concerns, just comment down below and I'll try my best to answer all your questions. And I'm gonna give you a sneak peek to a couple things I'm about to order for the Q. It should be coming hopefully soon. So I'm actually going to be purchasing forged upper control arms and adjustable rear suspension arm kits for the front and back of my Q. This is mostly to adjust the camber on my wheels for more traction, more grip. Because when you put I believe it's -1 camber on the front and 0 on the back, just straight traction. You shouldn't be spinning. It should help a lot with traction. Highly recommend that. I'm gonna also be upgrading to a Brake Master cylinder brace for braking, stopping power. As you see, I have the brake pads I was just discussing. I have the rear rotors, and I'm also upgrading to stainless steel brake lines. And of course, I'm gonna have to do a brake fluid flush. So I'm gonna end up going with this brake fluid. I believe it's 4 pints that you're gonna need for a full flush. So yeah, that's upcoming in the future. And I'm still waiting on those Nito tires because they're still on back order. So yeah, guys, I hope this was a really informative video. I really can't express how important it is to be checking your oil. Again, I'm just gonna keep repeating myself. And I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. If you guys have any recommendations on what you guys want to see in the future, that would really help me out because it's kind of hard to figure out what kind of videos I'm going to be doing. And that's about it, guys. So I'll see you guys next week. Love y'all. Deuces.
I don't drive R8s, I don't like those. I drive the Daytona and I tinted the windows.